Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben, and today we are doing episode 1 of the MATLAB tutorial series, So You Want to Be a MATLAB God. I am your host, Ben, and we are going to be going over the basics of MATLAB in this tutorial. So to start off, I'm going to just talk about what MATLAB is. So MATLAB is a scripting language that is mainly used for engineering and science purposes. To put things very simply, it is the fanciest calculator you've ever used that you have to program yourself. It is very good for doing numerical modeling and not necessarily the greatest language or scripting language for making games or software for others to use. It's mostly used just for making numerical models or banging out a lot of equations and very quickly. If you want to make games or something, probably better use something like C++. So when you first boot up MATLAB, this is more or less what you're going to see. So on the left over here, we have your working folder. Not super important for this tutorial, but in other tutorials it may be more important. We have the command window, and then we have our workspace. So in your workspace, you're able to see the variables. But right now, we don't really have any variables. But in the command window, you can type in different commands, like if you want to do, say, 6 times 7, you hit enter, and then it'll tell you the answer is 42. And as you see, it makes the variable ans for answer, and you then see it pop up in here. Not super important right now, but we can get into that later. So if you want to make a new script, we're going to go up here to the top left and hit the New Script button. And then we have a new script called Untitled2. We're going to hit Control S to save it. And we're going to call it First Code. Now, MATLAB doesn't like spaces in its titles, so we're not going to call it First Space Code. We're just going to call it First Code. And we're just going to call it this for right now. So generally in MATLAB, when you start a new code, the first thing you're going to call is CLC and clear. And then if you want, you can also do close all, but that's not super important right now. So what CLC does is it clears what is in your command window. So if we were to type CLC here, it would then get rid of what's in the command window. And clear gets rid of all the variables in your workspace. So if you've been making a ton of codes and you have tons of variables in this workspace and you accidentally name something in another code with those variables, it's not going to screw things up with that. So that's the main purpose of calling CLC and clear at the start of every code. And another side note, in most coding languages, you put semicolons at the end of your little lines of script. In MATLAB, you don't have to, but if you do not put semicolons at the end of your lines of script, it will show up in the command window, which can look kind of sloppy. So we generally, just for good practice, put semicolons. However, you can leave them out if you want to do debugging. So just like pretty much any programming language, if you've done programming in any capacity before, we're going to make the first code, which is going to be, of course, hello world, because how could you not? So we're going to use the command printf, and then we're going to do open soft bracket, or parentheses, a single apostrophe, and then we're going to type hello world. And then, of course, close that. And then we can go up to here, hit the big green play button, hit run, and as you see here, we have successfully made our first script, hello world. So now you're probably feeling very accomplished. So let's see what other things we can do. We can declare variables in this. So we can say, for instance, x is equal to 5. And I'm going to leave this unsuppressed right now, so no semicolon, so you guys can just see that it comes up here in the command window. However, if I have the semicolon and hit it, it does not. So one thing that is kind of unique about MATLAB, and a lot of other programming languages don't let you do this, is you do not have to declare what sort of variable that you are using. So for instance, I have x is equal to 5. I don't have to say it's an integer or a float. I can just say x is 5. If I want to then, again down here, I can say x is equal to a string. So to define strings, we use the single quotations, and I can say the, and then suddenly x becomes a string. And as you can see, it comes up in here as a character vector rather than a float. But we're going to get rid of that for right now. Run that again. As you can see, it is a double for double precision. And so let's define another variable, and let's say y is equal to 6. So then we run it again, you see it's there, and then we can say that z is equal to x plus y, semicolon, and then as you can see, that should be 11. You go look over in the workspace, and as you can see, it is 11 as we expect. And then we also have the new variable z, which is defined as x equals 11. One thing that is important, so say I was to put this above this, so x and y have not yet been defined. I know this is not going to work. I'm just going to do it for demonstration purposes. And obviously we get a little error code that says undefined variable x. And we can see it's not defined yet because it hasn't gone that far in the code yet. So you have to always make sure that you have things in the correct order, otherwise you'll get error messages. However, MATLAB is generally pretty good at giving you very good hints on what your errors actually are, and it can make it a lot easier to correct it. So you can also do the same thing. You could say zz is equal to x times y to the power z. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up right now. And it follows the order of operations. It's going to do y to the z, and then it's going to multiply by x. So do that, and we have some very big number. So we're going to suppress that now. And then the next thing, you can also define Boolean. So if you want things to be true or false, we can say a is equal to true. Run that. As you can see, we have a Boolean, or a 1-by-1 logical as it's called in this, and it is 1, meaning true. And then we can say b is equal to false. And we'll hit run, and then b is then equal to 0 for false. So that's pretty much the very, very basics of MATLAB. You can actually get quite a bit done just knowing this. Like if you have a ton of equations that you need to bang out, you can do it pretty easily just using the really simple stuff I've shown you so far. But we're going to obviously get much more advanced in the future. So one other really cool thing to show you guys, pretty much all programming languages should have this as a feature, is you can make lines of code that don't actually run, and they're called comments. So what you can hit is the percentage sign, and then you can make a comment, and you can say, this is a comment. And then when you go to run it, MATLAB just ignores it, like it's not even there at all. So that is very nifty. And that is about all that is important for this very first MATLAB tutorial video. I really hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And I hope you stick around for the next series in this, or the next video in this series. Have a nice day.